good afternoon, YouTube. And okay, let's get settled in here. Learned a few things about the GoPro in our absence. One of the things that's been happening is I've had it running when I start the engine, and then I'm shocked when I turn around and it's not running anymore. I believe that's because the camera is taking power off of the airplane, and when I start, most of that power is probably going to the starter motor, so it's turning off the GoPro. So I don't do that anymore, and we'll see if you stay with me or not. I also found out last time I flew, and you weren't with me, but the GoPro was, can run out of memory if I don't turn the thing off routinely. 32 gig doesn't go as far as you might think. Last time you had the opportunity to fly with me, but didn't, because I might as well fess up. I was having trouble with the headsets again, that squeaking sound, and I thought I'd unplug the guest headset. Well, that of course unplugs the cord that's going into the GoPro for audio. So, my bad. If you had been with me, you would have seen that when I started the engine and at idle, I would have -5 on the ammeter. And -5 is basically when the ammeter's not running at all. When the engine's, or the alternator engine's not running at all, you get -5 drain. What that is indicative of is a voltage regulator going bad. They do go bad. They're Ducati voltage regulators. They're supplied. They're chosen by Rotax, not by Vans. And they die somewhere in the first 200 hours of their life. They cost about $200, so it's $1 an hour to have your voltage regulated in the Rotax world. Did go ahead and replace it. Go ahead and show you right quick what that looks like. If I can even take the lens cap off. Why is it so dark in here? It's middle of the afternoon. Well, it's because you got the lens cap on. So the, as you can see, there's no -5 there anymore. It's actually charging 4. Now what would happen at idle, it was -5. When I got the engine revved up enough in the air and such forth, the regulator would kick in and it would provide some positive amps to the battery, but generally just 1 or 2. And you know, right now we're seeing 4. Now some of that's because I've run some things off the Skyview when the engine wasn't running, so I burned up the battery a little bit. But in any event, that appears to be fixed. Got myself an oil change done at the same time, by which I mean I did an oil change. So we're ready to go. Our destination today is Jackson County. We're going down south a little bit. We're going to go down and visit another RB-12 guy. Lives in Jackson County. You show up to the airport probably about 3 o'clock. Maybe we'll do a little barbecue or something. Really, I'm just wanting to fly because I got kind of screwed out of it yesterday. I'll talk about that in a bit. Let's get the map ready to go. So you've seen all this before. I'm not going to give you the close-up. It's a map. It's a direct to. We're going to India 43. I guess I haven't been there for a while, so I get to spell it out. So India 954. James A. Roads, Jackson, Ohio, that's the guy. So we're going to go a direct 2 on that. Now, this is interesting. We may have done this once before, and we'll talk about this one in here, but as I zoom out, that route crosses through or very close to a military operating area. Now, the MOA down there is not, doesn't affect us at the altitude we'll be at. And I think if you look at it, if you were to look at it closely, we do just skirt the very edge of it, so it's really not a factor. But I'm going to use it as an excuse because there's something I've been trying to figure out with the Skyview. It has to do with being on a course, on a GPS course, and using the track mode to divert from that course and then to come back to the course. And there's a number of things that I may not be remembering completely accurately, but I seem to remember that if I was on a track course tracking away from the nav route and I told the autopilot to go back to nav, nothing happened. What I expected to happen was it to make a fairly sharp turn to get back on the route line as efficiently as possible. This is very different than setting it direct to the destination. This is just going to take it back to the route line. So if this is the route line and I've diverted this way, I would have expected it to come back like this and get back to that route line and to go back on course. And then what actually happened was absolutely nothing. But I have accidentally at times done that where I have changed the track to point back at the nav course, then press the nav button saying I want you to go on the nav course. It'll use that track as the intercept angle. So instead of potentially doing this, which is somewhat wasteful, I can set the angle to be a much more gradual, we're still moving forward, a much more gradual way back to the course line. So I'm going to make an excuse as we're flying along to test that and see how that works out. The other thing is, today it won't matter. Last time I flew, it was calm again, and the tower directed me to taxi down to runway 4, and I had made a comment on that video that I didn't like taxiing all the way down to runway 4, and I got a YouTube comment, and you know, I'm surprised that I get very few negative YouTube comments, and YouTube comments in general are a cesspool of anger. But mine have been very helpful, so I guess I'm drawing the right kind of audience. But somebody suggested just telling the tower that you would prefer runway 22. So that's what I did last time, and sure enough, there was a pause. He seemed a little surprised because I guess I've never asked for that before, but clearly just said, sure, fine, go ahead, runway 22. So thank you, whoever that was that commented on that. That's very helpful to me. So we're going to go through our little check right here. Ooh, there's a big gust of wind. It's kind of blowing from the tail, which makes it want to jump up and down. We're going to go through our little checklist here. I think we're pretty good to go, but all right, engine pre-started already done. That's basically passenger briefing canopy closed and latch, fuel valve is open, throttle, just friction. We don't really have to do that anymore because of the vernier throttle. We're quite happy with the vernier throttle. Ignition both on, avionics on, and fuel pump, circuit breaker installed. That's all done. Starting engine is already done. I did that while you guys weren't here. So basically we're out before takeoff, which we will hit at the end of the runway. But just scanning through this, everything is fine. We have oil pressure, we have fuel, quite a bit of fuel. So we're good on all that. We'll do the rest of it down at the end of the runway, so that's all set and ready to go. Engine's warmed up. I do not know what runway they're using, but I bet I can hazard a guess simply by going to map menu. No, that's not right. Simply by going to, oh, come on, info, weather. Oh, we don't have it. Oh, that's India 43. So India 43 is our destination. It does not mean I can't use this to look at a different airport. So we're going to go to KTZR, but we're not going to do a direct to. I'm just looking at that information. So now I'm on KTZR. And we'll go over to weather, and I still don't have weather, which indicates that the ADSB is not grabbing the weather for some reason. So we'll just go with whatever the tower tells us is. I am getting NextRad, so the ADSB is working. It'll probably pick up in the air, and just sometimes it can get it, sometimes it can't. The antenna is down underneath the airplane. So we're going to go ahead and call for taxi clearance, and I'll taxi on down there, and I'll meet you at the end of the runway. Okay, I went back to my old Dave Clark's. They don't have that squeaking problem that my new, very expensive A&R Dave Clark's do. I'm not sure what's causing it. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. I do suspect it's an airplane thing, not a Dave Clark thing. So I've got these on. They don't squeak like those other ones do. They're not as nice. They're heavier and less comfortable, but don't do anything to that squeak. And we're cleared down runway 22, so it's the short taxi. The oil's already warm because it's 90 degrees outside. It didn't take long to heat up the oil. So we'll be down at the end of the runway doing our run up in just a couple minutes. I'm going to shut you off again. Okay, here we are at the end of the runway. 93 degrees outside now, so it's quite hot in here. Can't really wait to get in the air. We do have to go through our pre-takeoff checklist. Pretty straightforward. Brakes hold, that makes sense. Flight controls check, they're all good. I'm waiting for the day that fails. It will validate years and years and years of doing this without any indication of failure. But you know the day it does, right? That's the day it matters. Altimeter really 3030. That's the only flight instrument I have to check. I don't have anything else to really mess with. Everything is, there's no mag gyro to set. I mean, these things are just wonderful. They do everything for you. Fuel valve is checked open. That'd be a miracle if it wasn't. That'd be car companies would come after me to kill me because I've invented the engine runs on air. Fuel quantity, we got plenty. 15 plus. Minimum oil temp, yeah, we got that in spades. Go ahead and do our run up. So, as you remember, that's 4,000 RPM. Also, doubles as a brake check. Alright, there's very close to 4,000 RPM right there, so there's a drop from 90 to 100, and we never get quite back up to 4,000 after doing that. There we go. And that's dropped from 90 to 100, that's good. So everybody's happy in the engine, which is nice. We're making amps again, which is nice. Let's get that trim set. Want the trim set to take off. Alright, let's finish up the checklist, which I casually tossed aside, and now won't be able to find. Here it is. Alright, trim set to take off done. Flaps. Okay, well the entertainment never stops in 284 Delta Golf. GoPro shut itself off, and so did my headset. Just completely stopped working, so it's another fun headset day. I just jiggled everything, turned it all back on. Guess you guys are with me again. We're just about ready to take off, so I'm going to go to tower frequency. And if I stop talking, it's not don't take it personally. It just means my headset stopped working again. I really just needed it long enough to get in the air, and of course when we come back, so should be all right. And I set the trim. There we go. So we're all set for takeoff. We got our course laid in. We'll go ahead and reset the direct to. Might as well. And so now we're exactly on course. And there we go. All right, we're over to tower frequency. I've done the check. Everything's closed. We'll check that canopy one more time because we don't trust the canopy. Check the U2 one more time because we don't trust the GoPro. And we'll call the tower. Delta Tower, experimental tweet for Delta Golf, ready for takeoff runway 22 at Alpha 1, departing VFR southbound.
We're going 4 Delta Golf.
I think GoPro shut off again. I think it might be overheating. It's sitting here in the sun just baking. So once we get up in the air, maybe that'll get a little more reliable. wind. That nose just came right. Well, the GoPro continues to turn itself off, so it's a no pro today. Kind of choppy up here. I'm hoping that it'll get a little cooler now that we're in the air. It's already down to 84 degrees outside. Of course, we got sitting in a greenhouse right now. So I don't know how long you'll be with me, but it's quite choppy. And I kind of expect that on a hot day like this, you get a lot of vertical in the air. So we'll get up nice and high. There's nothing means we have to stay down low like this. We'll get up nice and high on the way down there. It's not a lengthy trip. It's only 60 nautical miles, but this 45 minutes, you know, if we're having any kind of headwind at all. So let's get up where the air's nice and cool, and maybe you guys will settle down and stop disappearing on me. Here's a good opportunity to go ahead and see what happens here. So I'm going to go ahead and set my track to what I'm at right now, and have the autopilot in track mode turned on. Let me get my altitude dialed in. We want to go to, we might as well go up high. Boy, it's choppy. Alright, so let's get our climb in there. Alright, so we're on track mode. I'll go ahead and turn on the, you guys still there? Yep. Go ahead, since we're on the autopilot, I'll go ahead and turn on this camera and just kind of hold it so you can see it. To the degree that I can, it's mighty bumpy. But basically I'm going to take my track indicator and turn it here towards the course line and then tell it nav. And no, that's going to take us straight to the course line. That's a very sharp turn I thought I would get whenever I turn directly to the course line. Now, I wonder if that's a distance thing. We're still very close to the course line. We hadn't gone very far on that track. So maybe it's thinking, hey, that's not far enough that you were really invested in that track. I'm going to turn this off because it's just impossible to hold, and because I never actually turned it on anyway. So I know it's not even recording. Fool with that later. For now, let's just get up to a nice comfy altitude. I don't know why we're only doing 100 feet per minute. Let's go ahead and make that 600. And get our range up to something realistic. There we go. And now that's going to put us on the course line. Looks like we're going to have a pretty healthy crosswind from the right. You guys are still with me, so I think it was a temperature thing that was shutting that GoPro off. I don't know. I guess that's why people only ever use them for water skiing and snow skiing. Anything hot, they just can't handle. So we'll go ahead and let the autopilot climb us on up, and then we'll play with that track again, because I'd really like to find a way to make that reliably work. And we can do that. I can go ahead and just go ahead and get myself off course. There's nothing says I have to go on this course, so we'll turn the track over here. We'll be high enough to get over Rickenbacker, but let's take a light angle on it. So let's go to track, and that should turn me over there. Follow that blue line, which immediately disappears, which isn't all that helpful, but you can still see it there. And I guess I can go ahead and really turn on the camera this time, not just pretend to. And now we're recording. So you can see that I'm diverting from the course at an angle that's probably not quite 30 degrees, maybe 25 degrees, it's just a guess. And we'll let that build up to a pretty healthy distance away from the course line before I try to get it to go back. Maybe that's a distance thing, as I said before. And we're climbing through 3,000, still a bit choppy. I don't know if this is ever going to smooth out. But what are you going to do, right? So it's that or not fly, and that's not a great choice. Autopilot's doing great. We're climbing very well. We're 30, what do we got? 500 or 600 foot per minute at 84 knots. That's pretty good. Off to the side, what we're trying to stay away from, I don't want to go too far to the left because we have Rickenbacker Air Base out there, which isn't heavily used, but when it is used, it's used by heavy airplanes. So it's an unheavily used heavy airplane airport. Now there's an interesting turn. I think we're trying to get on course now. We must have reached the course line. I'm going to let it climb a little slower. We really don't need to be climbing this quickly, and it really isn't uncomfortable. I can't see where we're going. So I'll dial that vertical speed back down. We're not in any hurry at all, so we'll just put that around 400. And that'll get that nose, I don't know if you can tell. You can tell from the YouTube, that nose is way up in the air. And it makes it hard to see, and it's uncomfortable. It's just flat uncomfortable. It feels like an incipient stall. Now, it's not done a terrific job of getting us back on that course line, I gotta say. Well, now we're on track mode, okay, so I guess that's what I told it to do. I've not told it to go back to the course line yet, so that's on me. So we're going, you and I are going alone today. I would have flown yesterday. Had a guy that has flown with me before and texted me on Friday asking to go again, and I said that's just fine. So when that happens, I don't seek out anybody else. I don't have an alternate or anything like that. That's just not fair to anybody. So he said, yeah, anytime's fine. And I said, okay, how about tomorrow? I was like, well, okay. And of course my next, well, what time? And it seemed like the morning was going to be okay. But then a little bit later, no, the morning's not okay. Could it be the afternoon instead? And I'm amenable to that kind of thing. I try to be very accommodating. I understand it was short notice. You know, things happen, right? Then it became 6 p.m. and that was partially me. For the trip we're making right now down to visit Kyle. Kyle was going to be out of his hangar, and thought we'd do a little barbecue or something. So yeah, that was all fine until a little after 3. Well, actually about noon. I didn't get a response to that, and I said, need to know. Very quick text, need to know. Yeah, 6 o'clock is fine. About quarter after 3, I got a text that I didn't find until about 4 o'clock that said he had come into possession of some unforeseen concert tickets, and he was going to do that instead. So basically, I read that as I got a better offer. And that is not the way. You know, the government maintains a no-fly list, and I just started one, population 1. I ended up not flying yesterday. It was a much better day than today. I sat around all day waiting for this guy, only to find out that he had gotten a better offer. And we don't do that. That's just not right. So today I could have gone myself, but at that point I have to admit I was a little angry. I found while building the airplane, and I'm sure this is pretty similar to flying the airplane, if you're not in the mood to do it, then it's best not to force it. When I was building the airplane, that's when I made mistakes. When I didn't feel like building, but I did it out of some sense of obligation, and that's when I would make mistakes. My mind wasn't fully on the job. And I think flying could be similar. At that point, I would have been making that trip out of a sense of duty, which is just not, I don't think it's safe, I don't think it's smart, and it's certainly not fun. So I delayed it till today. So that's why I'm taking a trip with my friends at YouTube. You guys never fail me. Well, that's not true. Your little stand-in here, your little GoPro fails me quite often. Sometimes it's my fault, and sometimes it's not. Today there was a lot of weird it's not stuff. So let's see, we're diverging from our course. We're a little further away than we were the last time I said I want to go back to nav, and let's see what it does if I tell it I want to go to nav. Okay, that did nothing, and I can tell, let me get the camera going for you, there's an indication of why it's not doing anything. And it does validate my theory that it is a distance-related thing. The way I can tell is it now says track 145 to intercept GPS. Now, that's never going to happen. We'd have to go all the way around the world for that to happen. And I'm not sure even then, we'd probably have to go a number of times. So now what it's waiting for me to do is say, how do I want to intercept that? And I really don't want to go straight at it like you did a few minutes ago. I want to angle into it. See, I'll just name it about like that. So that hypotenuse is a lot more efficient than if I was going straight back and then had to make another healthy turn. We're just going to angle into it because we're in kind of a cruise situation. We're not in any hurry to get there. So that's going to follow track 176 until it intercepts the GPS course, and then it's going to turn us back on course. And that is a really neat feature. I just never, I was only happening to cross it by accident, and now I know actually how to do it. I'm quite happy with it. It's a pretty neat feature. I should also mention we got traffic about 6 miles, 1,500 feet below us. He'll cross in front of us. We may or may not get to see him. He's climbing. He's at 1,000 now, so we're going to keep an eye on him. He's climbing. I'm not. Actually, I am. I'm going another 500 feet. So hopefully it'll be a little smoother up there. We'll see how high he climbs, or if he actually doesn't climb fast enough. He's got to gain another 4,500 feet in what's essentially, at this point, 3 miles. It's probably not going to happen. So we'll watch for him anyway. I'll let you know if anything exciting happens, but for now I'm just going to shut you down and try to save some memory on the card. See you later. Alright, we're not a whole lot closer, but we're close enough to pick up the automated weather system, and we're listening for the wind.
James A. Rhodes Airport. Automated weather observation 18410 Zulu weather wind 190 at 7 visibility 10.
Alright, so 190 at 7. Let's leave that on because there we go. 190 at 7. Now I know the runway down there is 1836. So this is easy. Runway 18, winds 190, or land at runway 18. That's pretty obvious. If it had been less obvious, it would have been an opportunity to demonstrate my little card here. I can still do it. If the runway is oriented north and south, which it is, and this is runway 18, I want it to be runway 18, I can do the other side of the card. Wind is coming from the south. We're approaching, I'm going to exaggerate this, we're approaching like that, but let's exaggerate it to say I'm approaching like this. What that tells me is I want to enter the pattern out here. So I don't want to head right at the runway because I don't want to do a straight-in approach. I want to make at least a right base. Honestly, I should make a left base. If I want to make a left base, we flip this thing over. We want to do left traffic, so let's flip it over. So there's runway 18. We're coming this way. No, that doesn't work right either. How am I going to get to a left base off it? This might have been the card that didn't work. I did one of these wrong. This may be the one that didn't work right. Let me think this through. I'll make left base, because what I really want to have happen is this. I want to come across. Oh, yeah, no, this is right. Okay, yeah. Because we want to make left traffic, so I know this is right. I'm going to angle it this way to make it exaggerated. If the wind was out of the north, we would flight plan to here, enter directly a 45-degree entry into a left crosswind to runway 36. Because it's not, because the wind is coming this way, and we know we want 18, and we know we want a left pattern, I'm still going to flight plan to this. When I get to this, I'm going to come across, turn right, come out far enough that I can make a turn back into a 45-degree entry to the left downwind to the left base to runway 18. Now, am I really going to do that? If the airport was busy, I would. There's never anybody in Jackson County, so I'm not so sure I will. I could go ahead and do a straight in. I do it down here. I do it somewhat commonly because there's never anybody there. But for sake of argument, let's say I want to do this. Well, to do this, I don't want to be pointed at the direct. I have a direct route to the airport, which is right there. I actually want to have a direct route to right here. So I'm going to have to get the camera out and show you how I'm going to do that. And it's maybe bumpy again. I'll do the best I can. All right. So let's go ahead. First of all, we're going to go to our screens, and we're going to turn off at least the engine management so I get a nice big picture. I'm going to zoom out because I have to find the airport. There it is. I'm going to use this little knob, and it's going to push that little thingy up there to the airport. And I want to zoom in now that I'm up there, so I'm going to zoom in. And there you can see the runway, and we want to be about here. So I'm going to move this down here, and I'm going to go right over. I want to go right over the end of the runway. I don't want to be way out here. I don't want to be up there. I'm going to go right over it. So I'm going to push this out about here. Now there's hills out here, and I got to be careful to remember that there's hills out here. I don't want to do this over the hills. So I'm going to stretch that about a mile. That's about a mile away. And then I'm going to go to, where's map menu? I want to go back. Map. I want the map menu, and I want to add that point to flight plan. So I'm going to go to that, push the button once to the right. It's going to make a fake waypoint that we'll delete later. I'm going to say OK to that, add to the flight plan. And I want it in front of, not after, India 43. That would be silly to put it after, so we're going to insert there. And I'm going to set that as my direct to. I'm going to try to set that as my direct to. Let's see what let me do it. So let's get out of that. Let's get back on the airplane. Let's go back to our flight plan. And now I want to do a direct to. And that's our new direct to. So we should start making a turn to that because that's the next place we're going. And that should take us to where we're all positioned. I'll go ahead and turn this off. That should take us to where we get right here, we make a turn, we cross over and do all this gobbledygook to be FAA compliant with a left, at least a left face to the runway. Now I'm going to go back to monitoring Unicom and see if there's actually anybody down there or not. I assume not. There hardly ever is, but I'll listen for them. And I'm going to go ahead back to being way out here on my 8-mile range, and I can put you guys back to sleep. All right, we're still...
Traffic, stop at 997, turning left downwind 26 Marine.
We're still 15 miles out.
Traffic 442 here, Juliet, left downwind run.
We're still 15 miles out. I'm going to go ahead and start setting up the land. I've got us back direct to Indy 43.
Road Airport.
We're not going to fool around with all that. We're going to do it straight in. It's really going to be choppy down there, and I'm just not going to mess around with all that. So I'm going to hand fly the approach. We're, I said, 15 miles out. We got to lose about 3,000 feet. Let's find out. So we'll go to info. Traffic pattern altitude is 1,800. Let's go ahead and dial that in. Remembering that the autopilot will do nothing about it until I tell it to. So there's 1,800 feet. So we've got to lose about 4,000 feet. We're how far out? We're 7 miles out. So 7 times 5, yeah, so 14 miles out, or 7 minutes. We're going to lose 500 foot per minute. We need 4 minutes. We're 7 minutes out. So we can start really any time. And I don't know if I have this running or not. I did not. Okay, well, there's not much to see other than we're 7 minutes out. And I'm pointing directly at the airport now. There's not much else to see, so I'm going to shut off the autopilot and hand fly it. I'm not going to be able to fiddle around with the GoPro while I'm doing that. So hopefully 7 minutes won't fill up the card and I can talk to you on the way back and all that. So autopilot off.
Disconnect.
And of course nothing will happen. The nice thing about the auto trim is it remains in trim, so it's in trim when I turn it off. Alright, we're on the Unicom. That might get a little noisy. Now we're going to aim a little bit off to, you won't be able to see it because I'm not going to get the camera not while I'm not on the autopilot. We're going to aim off to the side to give ourselves room for that straight in approach. I don't want to go right into the middle of the airport.
Traffic 997 left base for the grass, 26 right.
Okay, that's not Jackson. So I'm going to throttle back and let it just fall into a descent. At some point, I do have it navigating everything.
Traffic to stop at 997, turning final, 26 right. Tarmac.
There it is. I was waiting for my little light blue arc. You just have to imaginate this because I don't want to grab the camera without the autopilot on, but there's a light turquoise arc that's coming down the hill here at me. What that's telling me is that is the point on the ground at which I will be my desired 1,800 feet. And so what I can do is manage that to where I get it right at about, I want to be pattern altitude just as I'm making that turn for the straight in. So I can manage that through either throttle or elevator to keep that little arc right where it needs to be so that I'm at 1,800 feet. Not too early, not too late, but basically when I want to be. So I wish you could see that, but I'm not going to put the autopilot back on. But really, it's not much to see. It's just a kind of an arc, kind of a turquoise. And right now, it's past where I want it to be, which indicates that we're not descending as much as I thought. We're down to 200. We're in an updraft is what's happening. That will change. Now we're at 800, so we're now in a downdraft. So you just kind of, it's not precise. It doesn't need to be precise. It's just a nice indicator of where things are going to end up.
Jump lane 3305, Yankee jumpers away in about 2 minutes from 10,000 below, next 10 minutes Franklin.
So we're about 9 miles from the airport. We're going to go to 5 miles in. It's right there, just about, right there.
8 to the northwest inbound.
And just 5 minutes out. This place is always hard to see. It's down in, it's kind of in a valley. It's not really a valley, but it is on, there's hills on the side that I'm on. I can see it from here because I know where it is. But normally it kind of hides down behind a little row of hills. The way I find it, there's a highway running along here. It's US Route 35. It goes past a building with a new roof on it, and the new roof is painted kind of a dark umber reddish brown. When it's hazy, all I got to do is fly along this highway until I see that barn, turn right, and then I'm on final to the runway. So it makes it's a really good landmark. Won't need it today since I can see the runway already. But I come down here a lot, and it's not always clear like this. Although it does always seem to be bumpy. And it looks like things are shaping up for us to be at pattern altitude a little bit early. I got to remember this is not, it's going to be perpendicular. We're coming at an angle. So actually that's about right. It angles down to about here, and that's where it is. So it's actually looking pretty good. I think it's going to turn out to be a good plan. We will still need to get it slowed down kind of in a hurry, get the flaps down and everything, and it hasn't really gotten bumpy yet. So I'm anticipating it getting bumpy, but it hasn't yet. If I'm lucky, it won't. It was so bumpy on the way down here one time, I turned on the G meter. There's a G meter I can put in here instead of the turnabank. And I hit like 2.5 Gs on some of those bumps, and one of them was, or two of them actually, bounced me so hard against the canopy that it knocked my headsets off. That was a pretty bumpy day. This is not bad at all by comparison. And it doesn't look like it's going to get that way. We're down to 2,700 feet, 1,000 feet to pattern altitude, which is 700 or 800 feet above the ground.
Carroll County traffic, Diamond 203 Delta Charlie, 10 miles to the southwest, inbound to land 25, Carroll County, full stop.
Boy, that's a laconic talker. Take your time, sir. What's the hurry?
Traffic sky out to 042 miles to the north, inbound practice system approach, making a left base for runway 9, US Dorothy.
Jackson County Roads Airport, experimental 284 Delta Golf is 5 miles north, inbound straight in, runway 18, Jackson County Roads.
Yeah, fast up to the straight in.
Approaching altitude.
I'm on record now. Going on record is how you get to have a record. And I've got you set on medium instead of the wide angle now, so you should be able to see a little bit further out in front of us. So you might be starting to see the airport out in front of us. If not, what you'll see is just kind of a clear area. You'll see it when we get there, of course, but you might be able to start to see it now. So this is what a 5 mile final, well, it's actually 4 mile final now. We're really good on altitude. We're right at pattern altitude. We've got a pretty good crosswind, and we still have pretty good headwind, so we won't get the full effect of the crosswind, and it'll take us forever to get through these next 4 miles. Ground speed, we're still doing pretty good. We'll slow her down here in a bit. We don't need to slow down quite yet, but I will want to get down to flap speed when we're about a mile out. And the plane slows down very well, particularly into a headwind like this. I won't have any trouble getting it slowed down. But I guess it doesn't really matter. The wind is the wind. The air is the air. It slows down just like it always does, whether it's headwind or not. Across the ground now, it'll look very different. It'll look like we're hardly moving. There's 90 knots. I'm on about 80 before I put the flaps down. And there's 89, 90. We're right up. We got a very nice glide slope going here. Looking really good. And I see the red roof building now. That's you won't see it, I don't think. It's just off to the left, just shy of the highway. But you can see, if you could see it, you'd be able to see how well that lines up with lining up to a final. It's a very good landmark. It's about 2.5 miles, 2 miles from the end of the runway, which is plenty to get yourself set up if you're planned ahead. So that's a great landmark there. It's actually a motorcycle dealer. All right, we gotta start thinking about slowing down now.
Jackson Roads traffic for Delta Golf is 2 mile final, runway 18, Jackson Roads.
For those of you keeping score at home. Now we're over some high power lines, high tension power lines. Don't like going over them. Even worse going into them, and probably wouldn't like going under them either. And let's see, I told him I'd be here at 3 o'clock. It is 2:58. So by the time I hit the runway, it's going to be an on-time arrival again. And that just seems to happen. I actually thought I'd be early. People caught me and talked to me at the airport. And I like talking to people at airports, so I always make time for that. But it ended up making me on perfect on-time arrival instead of being early. So there you go. Oh, big updraft here, big updraft. Right when you're trying to get down to the runway, you get a huge updraft. All right, let's get our trim set. Now you can feel that crosswind. There's a huge lift here, huge lift. I'm gliding at this point. It just doesn't want to come down. There, we're going to get a sink. Now we got a nice big sink.
Husky 2932 Whiskey, 6 miles to the southeast, inbound for landing. Roads.
That was smooth. I'm very happy with that one.
Engine speed.
All right, there we are. Here's our fancy new terminal building. This is really nice. The place used to be just a falling down shack. They've got some federal money, federal grant, and put up that fancy new building there. It's just really nice building. We're happy to have it. It makes the airport look completely different. It just looked horrible with that awful building. So nice to see they got that done. And 86 degrees, so it's a little bit cooler down here than it was in Columbus, but it's still fairly hot. GoPro will probably turn itself off here in just a second. And if it doesn't, I will. Props are looking good, which is something I say to be funny. I had a friend, female friend from work, city girl, agoraphobic, couldn't stand the country. Took her out, her and the family out camping at my dad's place, and she gets out of the car, and Dad comes out to meet her, and she said, "Hey, crops are looking good." I said, "Brandy, point me out what you think is a crop," which she was able to do. So she knew what they were. It's just not much of a farm girl. So this guy's in my parking spot. Get out of my way! I think the air compressor might be going home. I'm not gonna be able to get past him, so I guess I'll park over here. Kind of blocked me. Yeah, we'll park up here in the corner, out of the way. Hopefully out of the way anyway. Alright, gonna shut you down, since I've also learned what destroys files is to not shut the GoPro down.